The Nexus line, Google's pride, joy, and the forerunner for all Android devices. Every major update to the Android operating system is joined by a new Nexus device, proudly sponsoring speed, performance, and unadulterated pure Android. This is the Nexus 7 2013 edition. Now I gotta start off with my usual disclaimer. This is a Nexus device, and as such, it just wouldn't feel right not to rut this and install a custom recovery. So this has received the classic Kevin treatment in terms of tweaks, modifications, and whatnot. If you're curious at all about the setup, I'll leave a link to my most recent setup video in the description. That being said, game on! The specs on the Nexus 7 are as follows. It has a 7-inch 1920 by 1200 IPS LCD display, a quad-core 1.5 GHz Snapdragon S4 Pro CPU, Adreno 320 GPU, 2 GB of DDR3 RAM, and a 3950 mAh battery. Also, oddly enough, besides the 1 megapixel front-facing camera, there's also a rear-facing 5 megapixel camera. The Nexus 7 is beautifully designed and everything about this feels premium. It's thin, it's light, the soft touch material is amazing, the buttons don't feel cheap, and you won't get any creaking noises from this tablet anywhere. This tablet feels extremely solid, like there's no empty spaces whatsoever on the inside. Extremely well done on ASUS's part. Now something that might look a bit odd are those bezels. The 2013 edition was changed a little from the 2012 in that the side bezels are now thinner while the top and bottom bezels are larger, making the device thinner and taller. I have to admit I'm not the biggest fan of this change. Holding the device in landscape is a lot easier, that's for sure, but holding it in portrait I found that I was accidentally touching the screen a bit. I think it would have been better if they shrunk the top and bottom bezels a little bit and added a little more to the sides. On the back of the tablet we have a pair of stereo speakers that I actually really like. These are the best rear-facing speakers I've ever heard actually. Even when holding the tablet in landscape, it never sounded like I was completely blocking out the sound with my hands. So props again to ASUS for this. The smaller form factor is one of the highlights of the Nexus 7. It's extremely light, thin, and your arm isn't going to get tired from holding it. Also, if your hands are large enough, using it one-handed isn't a problem here either. You can toss it in your bag or in a jacket pocket, and it's just really easy to carry it around with you. Now being a Nexus device, the Nexus 7 touts vanilla Android 4.4.4 KitKat. You really can't beat stock Android here. It's cleaner, faster, and more efficient than the overbearing skins that some OEMs, Samsung, love to boggle down their devices with. Also, since this is a Nexus device, it gets the quickest updates as soon as Google releases them. No more waiting for OEMs to add their own little touches. This tablet was released a year ago, so if past actions are any indicator, that means that we have about another year of guaranteed software support. This means that Android L, which my money's on Licorice by the way, is definitely going to be coming to this with all of its material design hotness. One of the best, if not the best feature of the Nexus 7 is its screen. The 1080p IPS panel is stupid gorgeous. It makes using the tablet for anything at all extremely enjoyable. It's really easy to get immersed in games, and text is nice and crisp for reading. I really can't understate just how amazing this thing looks. The screen is legitimately perfect for media consumption, but more on that in a second. If you've never used one, a 7-inch screen size might not sound like much of a difference from the average 5-inch smartphone of today, but it definitely is. This is a tablet through and through. The 7-inch screen size is going to be up to personal preference here. For me, I think 7 inches is just shy of my sweet spot. If the Nexus 8 ever becomes a thing, I'm going to be all over that. The battery life on the Nexus 7 is pretty solid. I can make it through a day for sure with the heaviest use I would ever put into a tablet, but more commonly I get 2 days with more average use. One thing I can immediately say about this tablet is that the battery life could be better. I mean, I can get through a day absolutely no problem, but I just feel like a tablet should be able to last a few days. However, this is a 7-inch tablet that's extremely thin, so I'm sure ASUS filled this up with as much battery as space could offer. Long story short, the battery life won't stand up against larger tablets out there, but I have no reason not to charge this thing every night, so it's not really a big deal for me. Performance throughout the system is awesome. Stock Android runs really well with this kind of beefed up version of the S4 Pro along with 2 GB of RAM. Multitasking is great and apps load quickly enough. However, I feel like I should mention since that last 0.04 update, I've been getting some kind of weird stutters and lags here and there, but I don't know, that might just be a personal thing. Now normally I would talk about how the camera performs on a device like this, but just because there is a camera doesn't mean that you should use it, like ever. This is a tablet. You don't want to be this person. The 2013 edition tablet comes with a rear camera where the 2012 did not, and I think it shouldn't have been included at all. If the camera wasn't included, the price could have been knocked down to that $200 sweet spot that the original Nexus 7 had sold for. One last thing I wanted to say about the Nexus 7 is that I take it everywhere and I use it all the time, and that's all thanks to its form factor. The 7-inch screen size is perfect, legitimately perfect for reading. In fact, the main reason I bought this tablet was for reading. I have 20 plus books on my Google account right now, and this thing is my go-to reading device. I read novels like A Song of Ice and Fire, Maximum PC articles from the newsstand, comics, manga, web pages. This thing is the ultimate reading device. It might not have an e-ink display like other e-readers out there, but there are apps that can tweak the display and make it a little more paper-like and easier on the eyes for when you're reading in dark rooms, and that works just fine for me. Another thing that the 7-inch size supports is portability. I take this tablet with me everywhere, and that's because it's small, light, and doesn't take up any extra space. I can fit it in the top pocket of my backpack, and jacket pockets are no problem. I carry this to class with me every day, and I use it for keeping copies of PowerPoints and notes on it. And I would totally buy my textbooks on the Play Store if any of the ones I needed were offered last semester. On several occasions, I've used this for giving presentations in class, and I kept notes and a timer going on my tablet. I can tell you that I felt like a bit of a BAMF compared to everyone else using note cards. I haven't had any need for a laptop this past semester, so the Nexus 7 literally took its place in my backpack. Now, as a technology enthusiast, I'm someone who always wants to have the newest and greatest devices. There are rumors going around of a new Nexus 8 announcement before the year is done, and as I said, I think an 8-inch screen size might be my sweet spot. I would recommend you wait before buying this Nexus 7 until we see what happens with a possible new Nexus tablet. If a Nexus 8 gets announced for a price under $300, I can almost guarantee you that I'm going to sell this tablet and buy that one. If not, I will happily use this one for another few months or even a year. If you don't want to shell out the extra cash for a brand new tablet, I promise you, you will love this Nexus 7, especially if you're looking for just a great media consumption device like I was. I've seen a lot of sales recently, and you'd have no problem picking one up for under $200 if you look around. This concludes my review of the Nexus 7 2013 edition.